Hey, what's up everyone? Tedrick85 here, and today I'm going to be talking about Bubble Bobble, also featuring Rainbow Islands for the PlayStation. This is basically two arcade classics on one game CD. Both Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Islands were also released for the NES and made by Taito. The former is a classic game on the console, whereas the latter failed to attain such popularity, but is a fun game in its own right. If you haven't played one game or the other, or both, don't worry because I'll tell you everything you need to know about them in this review. Since Bubble Bobble is the star of this CD, I'm going to be covering it first. The game's menu screen allows you not only to choose how many continues, or credits as they are called here, but it also lets you listen to the game's music and sound effects. First of all, I love the fact that the game looks pretty much like a vintage NES game for the most part. Sure, there are a few minor enhancements here and there, but you can tell you're playing a piece of nostalgia just by looking at it. The character you play as, Bub, looks as cute as ever. The enemies, on the other hand, still look as goofy yet satisfying as that they ever did. Don't ask me what half the enemies of this game are supposed to be. Of course there are the ghosts and the whales, but everything else is anyone's guess. But in a way, I really like this because it lets anyone who plays this, especially children, to use their imaginations and come up with what they think they are. The level designs are unique from level to level, which not only gives it variety in terms of looks but also in gameplay, as you'll find out later on in the game that the layout of the level can either help or hinder your progress. As far as controls go, they are solid. Bub moves left and right with absolutely no trouble. He stops when you stop, and his jumping is as good as you can ask for from a classic game. You'll find that you will have absolutely no issue controlling Bub in this game whatsoever. The hit detection and collision detection in this game are non-issues as well. Some people who play this may find this game frustrating at times, but one thing they can't say is that it's not fair. There isn't a moment in this game where an enemy can hurt you without touching it, or if you fall through a platform or anything like that. I think Taito did a fantastic job playtesting this. The music is pretty good, though to be honest, I don't think it's quite as good as the NES version. Here, listen. The sound effects are practically the same as they were on the NES, so there really isn't anything to say in regards to it. The object of this game is to go through 100 levels and save Bub and Bob's girlfriends while clearing each level of the enemies in them. This may sound simplistic, but you'll find out in later levels this is easier said than done. You defeat the enemies by encasing them in a bubble and then popping it before it pops. If a bubble pops while an enemy is in it, they turn red and move much faster, making them much more difficult to defeat. Also, you can defeat a whole bunch of enemies at once by clumping them together by blowing bubbles. The more enemies you defeat at once, the higher of a score you will receive. Oh, and you only have a certain amount of time to beat each level. If you take too long, the words "hurry up" will appear on the screen. The further you get in this game, the less time the game gives you before the game tells you to hurry up. If you don't defeat all the enemies quickly enough, a Grim Reaper like Whale will come and try to take a life from you. If you defeat the enemies before he gets you, the white whale disappears and you are able to move on to the next level. Some of the items you'll find in this game can be quite helpful. I'm only going to discuss the most common ones, as there are many things that this game offers that will aid you on your journey. Some of them are so awesome and so secretive that it's best if one finds out what items do what actions for themselves. The first item I'm going to talk about is bubble gum. The gum can either increase your bubble shooting rate or increase how far you can shoot a bubble, depending on what color gum you get. Purple gum lets you blow bubbles far, light bubble gum makes the bubbles you shoot move fast, and yellow gum allows to blow bubbles at a rapid rate. Another helpful item is the umbrella. Getting an umbrella allows you to skip a number of levels. The number of levels you skip depends on the color. I've noticed that the darker the color of the umbrella you get, the more levels you skip. The shoe is another helpful item, as it allows you to move much faster than you normally would. This is particularly useful when trying to avoid enemies or collect certain items before they disappear. A rare but neat item you will also find is the potion. This allows you to play a minigame of sorts where you have to collect every item on the screen before time runs out. What items you have to collect depends on the color of the potion. You collect points for each item you collect, and you get a massive point bonus for getting all of them. Speaking of getting points, attaining a certain number of them will award you an extra life. You can also get an extra life by collecting colored bubbles with letters on them. The object is to spell the word extend. Some of the letters are easier to get than others. Once you spell the word extend with the bubbles, you are treated to a rather fun and colorful scene with Bub jumping around, and you are ultimately awarded a 1-up for your efforts. Isn't that awesome? Once you use up all of your lives and credits, you get a screen showing you how far down you have gotten. It's nothing special, but it's pretty neat nonetheless. And that's pretty much it when it comes to Bubble Bobble.